Time has
and real
expired.
reform.
Resume a seat. I call the member for McKellar.
Will may they chair that speech, because what that's all about is the sort of stuff that we will get from the Labor Party until the end of time. And by the way, before I go any further, I do want to recognise the Shadow Minister for Consumer Affairs, whose dedication to this chamber is something that we should all, I think, take as a credit. But back to where I was, because they believe that people on low incomes, they believe that people that don't do what the Labor Party says shouldn't be allowed to borrow money. That's what the Labor Party's always been about. Control, control, control. Everyone in this House wants to see Australians live to the full amount of their potential, except for the Labor Party, because they believe that unless you're a union official, unless you're a mate or an insider of the Labor Party, then you shouldn't be allowed to borrow money. You shouldn't be allowed to borrow money from a bank. You shouldn't be allowed to borrow money from a consumer credit organisation. You shouldn't be allowed to rent fridges. What about women who are leaving domestic violence situations, who need to? Oh, they laugh. They don't care because of course, only they're allowed to talk. Only they're allowed to talk about people who they think are worthy. Because the fact of the matter is, when women are leaving situations where they're in domestic violence and they need to move into an apartment and they don't have the money for a fridge or a couch, what's the Labor Party's answer to that? They should just go without. And when it comes to people on welfare who know how to actually run their lives better than people in Canberra, better than bureaucrats, better than the know-it-alls on that side, what's their answer to that? No, they should do what they're told. They should do what they're told, because that's what the Labor Party has always been about. The truth of the matter is that their private members' bill would actually put to an end people being able to lend to people. Would actually stop people from being able to borrow money to buy things like refrigerators, to buy things like microwave ovens, to buy things that they need to make their lives work and to be able to do that. See, the ALP believes that people shouldn't be able to make a decision on how they spend their own money, because no one knows how to spend their own money better than the Labor Party does. And the fact of the matter is that we on this side are actually about breaking the cycle of poverty that exists throughout this country, and you can't do that unless you give people freedom to make their own decisions in their own lives. The member for Newcastle says that there's almost universal condemnation of people who rort. Well, there's not almost universal, there's universal condemnation of the rorters in payday lending, the rorters in the consumer credit industry market. There's universal condemnation. There's no one on this side of the House who doesn't believe that those people should be put out of business, if not in jail. There's no one here. But we don't believe that that should be done at the cost of people who simply want to get on with their lives, not being able to borrow money to buy the simple essentials of life. When you look at Good Shepherd, when it admitted that their private member bill, the Labor Party's private member bill, would shift people out of the consumer credit market, leave them with nowhere to go to borrow, their answer was that taxpayers should put $1 billion into a consumer credit market. So where's your costings on that? There's absolutely none. They come into this House over and over and over again. They claim everyone's vulnerable. They claim no one can make a decision, that no one understands how to run their lives. The fact of the matter is that there are people in this country who may be on low incomes, but they actually have a much better sense of how to spend their money than some of the bureaucrats and the Labor Party do. And they don't need you to tell them how to do it. Because let me tell you, they're aware of what they're doing. And they're not vulnerable, and they understand what they're doing, and they don't need the Labor Party to be constantly hectoring them and telling them that they have no idea of how to run their lives. It's the sort of ignorance that this place has had enough of.
I call